Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister with her child custody case? My 37 female sister, 30 female, is in the process of divorcing her husband of 3 years. The divorce has taken a messy turn, and they're battling for custody of their toddler. My sister and I haven't spoken in nearly 6 years because she accused me of using her identity to get an apartment when I was in active alcoholism. I'm now in long-term sobriety, but at the time I told her I didn't do it, and she refused to believe me. She tried to have me arrested, but the apartment complex's video surveillance showed it was actually someone she didn't know who had stolen her identity from a place she used to work. She never apologized to me for accusing me of this, and she had told everyone and anyone who would listen that I had done it. However, when she realized it wasn't me, she still didn't backtrack or tell anyone otherwise. Fast forward to now. I'm sober for a few years, and my partner's sister is one of the top-rated family law lawyers in our area. The lawyer my sister currently has is terrible, and she lost custody of her daughter today. My mother called and said my sister called my sister-in-law, but she won't take her case because she doesn't feel comfortable knowing how it would make me feel, or not knowing. My mom wanted me to call sister-in-law and tell her that my sister needs help and to please take her case. I told her no, and that is not my responsibility to help her. I've never met my niece because my sister refuses to be around me even still. She got mad and said I'm an a-hole because I should be willing to help despite our past. For me, it feels like it's not a past at all, and still very much the present. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. May I make a suggestion? Call your sister-in-law and tell her that you appreciate the way she handled your sister. Let sister-in-law know that you'd prefer her not to take the case. And if anyone in your family calls her and tells her otherwise, they're lying. I will tomorrow. My sister-in-law has been such a wonderful support. I'm so thankful for her friendship and sisterhood. You're correct that I should contact her tomorrow. Not the a-hole, but info. What did she do to lose custody? She was caught with a DWI last month. Ex-husband called for emergency temporary custody and got it. Today they went to court and full custody was granted to the father. Not the a-hole. Congrats on your sobriety. Your sister has severed her relationship with you. It has been years. Why would you put in a good word for her? Your sister is still actively shunning you. You haven't met her kid. Your mother is wrong. Also, your sister-in-law is not the only good family law lawyers around. Why pick your sister-in-law? If she lost custody and your sister-in-law was her attorney, somehow it would be your fault. I'm assuming that your sister uses her married name. Your sister-in-law wouldn't have known she was your sister. Did your sister try to use your connection with your sister-in-law to get a discount or some other favor? I think your sister-in-law sounds great. I also think that she dodged a bullet and your sister would be a horrible client. My mom said she did call and tell sister-in-law who she was, that she was my sister. That's how sister-in-law knew because I have confided in her my past. She knows everything I've done, good and bad, and knows that I didn't do that bad thing I was accused of. My sister-in-law's a gem, and you're very right. Thank you kindly. Edit. Thank you all very much. I still question myself and my intentions a lot, since I got sober and started making changes to be a better person. It helped to hear everyone say the things I was thinking. I appreciate all the feedback very much. Much love. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not punishing my brother for cheating on his wife? My brother Jake has been with his wife Kate since high school, now separated. They have 2 kids that are both my godkids, and me and him are basically best friends. Our sister Claire has been friends with Kate since middle school. We're each other's maid of honors and still very close. In the last 6 months, Jake confided in me that he fell for his coworker and let things slip into physical affair. I encouraged him to tell Kate and be honest about it so to not live a lie. He told her. She was originally in denial and wanted to work through things, but Jake said he'd be lying to himself, and they are now in the midst of divorce proceedings. He and a coworker are now in a relationship. When I met her, I'll admit it was weird seeing him with someone else, but they weirdly seemed like the most compatible couple I've ever met. They have way more in common than he ever did with Kate. They look at each other with such admiration. And despite how it started, I honestly think they could be together forever. I know I could be wrong there, but that's my hunch. So Jake and I are still really tight. We recently took our kids to a festival together this weekend. Just me and my kids and him and his. No partners. We had a great time, and he was telling me how happy he's been, and the kids seem to be adjusting to it much better than expected. I know it's all a process, but I'm glad he's doing well, and I'm glad to have him in my life. Well, our sister Claire is mad that I'm still hanging out with Jake. She's saying how she can't believe I have the audacity to approve of him being with a mistress. and that I should be trying to convince him to try to work things out with Kate, who is apparently still hoping for that. Or I should be no contact with him until he realizes how wrong he is and makes things up to her. Am I the a-hole for staying tight with him, helping him a little financially till the divorce/child support situation is figured out, and supporting his new relationship that seems to make him happy? I feel bad for Kate and all, but I just feel like they're a case of people who got married too young, and now he found someone who's a better fit for him. Edit. Regarding the child support. Kate makes about double him, and her job involves a ton of travel to where she's gone about 75% of the time. Has been a primary caretaker of the kids most of their lives. She doesn't want a new job post-divorce, so he will continue to have primary custody. Of course, that means the other parent who makes more will pay child support. It's for the kids. He's not pursuing alimony for himself. Your brother was selfish and blew up his family the worst way possible. That's going to have repercussions and fractures. You don't need to punish him, but it is kind of gross he's riding off into the sunset with his new side chick, while his ex is deeply mourning. Don't condone it, but it is not your job to punish him. Going not the a-hole, but with some strong ick. I think the gross thing is trying to manipulate the brother back into a loveless marriage. The end game isn't just to get him to break up with a mistress, but to take back his ex-wife. Why? Because it's convenient for her? He doesn't love her, and familial shaming won't fix that. He's not an a-hole for leaving, he's just an a-hole for not having the balls to do it sooner and cheating. But they weirdly seemed like the most compatible couple I've ever met. They have way more in common than he ever did with Kate. They look at each other with such admiration. And despite how it started, I honestly think they could be together forever. I know I could be wrong there, but that's my hunch. Almost every relationship starts out this way. It's a young relationship, and they're still in the honeymoon phase when things are new and exciting. You didn't mention any major issues your brother had with his ex, and that left her solely because he wanted to get some action. That is so unbelievably selfish, especially since he has 2 kids. In a couple months or years when that initial flame burns out, your brother will probably look back with regret for destroying his family for short-term gratification. OP's comments make it even worse. His brother blames his ex, the breadwinner, by a far margin, for the fact that he cheated, since she was working all the time, but now he's going after her for financial support. So she's off working and making most of the money needed to support the family. He starts an affair, cheats on her for a while, finally ditches her to run off with a mistress, blames her, and now he wants to use the money she was making to build a comfortable life for him and a side chick. If she's working all the time, does that mean that he dropped his kids off somewhere so that he can bang his mistress? Anybody who is able to do that is a terrible person, and I see why the sister thinks so poorly of Opie as well. The kids apparently spent a lot of time over at Opie's house. Opie mentions this in a reply. So not just somewhere, he was probably dropping them off with Opie, who if so, wasn't just keeping quiet about the cheating, but actively enabling it. Next story. Am I the a-hole because I want to separate our funds if my husband continues to let his 22-year-old daughter live at home rent-free without doing anything or starting a life? I, Sarah, 38 female, and my husband, Josh, 40 male, have been together for almost 15 years. Josh has a daughter, Lori, who is almost 23. I've been in her life since she was 5. Lori came to live with us when she was 16 and ended up staying with us until graduation. I actually enjoyed having her around. It made house feel more complete. However, Lori has always had a mean streak, which I've kind of brushed off, thinking it's just some teenage angst. Lori's mother is manic depressive, and there's a concern that Lori might carry this as well. But nobody really wants to discuss it openly. Lori doesn't talk to anyone in the house, preferring to spend her days in a room playing video games until it's time for work. When she does emerge, there's this palpable tension and she often appears annoyed. We get one-word answers and feel like we're walking on eggshells. She does have a part-time job that she seems to like, but she has admitted it's not a long-term career goal. As her stepmom, I've never set rules or imposed consequences. My husband wanted to handle his daughter's issues himself. The only thing I requested is that she helps with the dishes on the days she doesn't have a car, as I have to drive her to work and pick her up. She never pays for gas, and when I ask her to do the dishes, she just leaves them. If she makes coffee, it's enough for 4 people, but she never replaces what she uses. My husband usually ended up doing the dishes to avoid any confrontation. He doesn't want to enforce rules on her either, saying she's an adult and he can't make her do anything. This has been going on for 4 years, and it's causing tension in our marriage. So I asked my husband if we could start separating our finances. I suggested that if he wanted to continue taking care of Lori, then I would give him the money needed for bills and keep the rest for myself. This didn't go over well, and we're currently not speaking. I'm even considering staying with my cousin until we can resolve this, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen soon. Am I the a-hole here for wanting to separate our finances because of this situation with Lori? Any advice or insights would be appreciated. Thanks. Edit. Lori has had her own car since February of this year and is paying for her own gas. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. My partner is 24 years old with bipolar and is a teacher. Bipolar doesn't make you an a-hole or lazy. It's time for her to grow up, get some help, and start paying her own bills. You should definitely stop giving her rides to work and make her figure out her own day-to-day matters. She's an adult according to your husband. Time to act like one. This. Tell your husband that according to him, she's an adult, and therefore it's not your responsibility to support her financially. He's cuddling her, and that's his choice. But you and your money don't have to be a part of that. The most important part of being an adult is telling the people you live with that they can't make you do dishes. Or them understanding that doing the dishes and paying for groceries is a prerequisite for her to keep living under their roof. Not the a-hole. It's time for Lori to get a wake-up call and realize that not everyone is going to support her financially forever. It sounds like she needs more responsibilities. Could you work out something where she pays her part of the phone bill or at least pays for gas? She's clearly making money, so some of that should be going towards you guys for supporting her other financial needs. I had to do this, and it honestly helps me get prepared for the big world. 100%. Laura's disrespecting OP in her home and her father is enabling it. Why does she need to financially support her on top of that? She's an adult and can take responsibility for her actions. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband he's an idiot and threatening to divorce him for co-signing on a $1 million home that isn't ours? My husband, 38 male, and I, 39 female, have been happily married for a little over 2 years. We own a home and do quite well for ourselves financially. He generally maintains the finances for our family. My husband's mother and sister live a few hours away, and I have always felt they were very abusive towards him. They speak down to him, disrespect him, and essentially make him feel as if it's his responsibility to clean up their financial mishaps and their poor choices. Now to the AITA part. My husband's sister and mother have been renting a home from another family member well under market value, at least $3,000 less than what it would rent for now. The owner of family member has decided to sell the home. Mind you, it has been trashed and not maintained by the sister and mother. They have little to no respect for the fact that they have had it so good for so long. The owner gave them 90 days to vacate the premises. Immediately, the sister and mother began asking my husband to help them buy a home. They live and work in one of the most expensive housing markets in the US. Additionally, they do not qualify for the type and amount of loan they would need to even buy a modest home in the area. Lower credit score, no major assets, etc., and they refuse to move to a more affordable area. After a lot of back and forth, they finally asked my husband to go sign on a very basic older home that costs $1 million. My immediate reaction was to tell them absolutely not, and I voiced my concerns to my husband. He is usually very level-headed and financially savvy, but I had to be the one to push him and his family for some sort of plan of how this would all work. To go from paying $1,000 a month in rent to well over $6,000 a month on a mortgage, not even including bills, seems questionable at best, and a terrible decision at worst. I asked my husband why they can't move into a modest apartment and make a plan to buy in a year or two, but he didn't really have an answer, but agreed that they absolutely need a plan in order for him to engage. Again, after several weeks of back and forth with his family, they had yet provide any solid plan on how they would pay the mortgage, bills, and avoid default. Who would be responsible for repairs? No idea. Finally, last week before I left for a work trip, my husband told me he would not be co-signing on the home and that they had done zero planning. I was so relieved and was able to relax on my trip. Well, I returned home at the end of the week and was taking a shower when he walks in and tells me he co-signed for the home. To say I was taken aback is an understatement. I went through all the range of emotions in a short amount of time, but it wasn't until the next morning that what he had done had really hit me. He chose to make a risky investment with people who don't respect him, and did it behind my back after assuring me he wouldn't. He kept trying to tell me I was safe from any potential impact, but I don't understand how that could be. I asked him to walk me through the conversation, the plans, and any assurance that our own assets were safe. He couldn't. He then had the audacity to tell me, at least I decided to tell you. That is when I lost it. I felt absolutely betrayed and disrespected. I cried and screamed and told him how he cannot see how they use him. I told him I was questioning his integrity and our relationship. We are also in the midst of the IVF process, and it has been extremely hard on me and my body. I told him I didn't think he deserved to be the father of my children, and if we did have children, his family would have limited contact and not allowed around my children. There are other incidents of how they have treated me with such disrespect that even I have distanced myself from them. That is also another reason why my husband decided for us to move away from them. Back to the subject. At first he was remorseful, but then he got defensive of his family. Even though myself and many others have tried to show him how abusive they are. I told him if he wanted any chance of making our relationship right, he was to immediately work with his mother and sister to write a contract that he had majority ownership in the home, so that if they continued to make poor decisions and default, he could sell the house. Well, to no one's surprise, his family would not agree to these terms, because they believe living there is enough to solidify it's theirs. For the last 3 days, I've asked over and over again why he made this drastic decision without a plan. My friends agree that this is a divorce-worthy offense, but the reality is besides this, we have a wonderful life together and I love him dearly. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for calling my husband stupid and threatening divorce over co-signing the loan? Some additional details for anyone interested. His sister is actually older than him. He has managed to keep his financial success fairly well hidden from his family, but due to the co-sign process, they now know exactly what assets he has, and I'm certain they will expect more from him. Before asking my husband to co-sign, they didn't even attempt to take out the loan for the home on their own. I assume they expect that having him on the loan will give them carte blanche on destroying the home, or default on the loan because he will pay in order not to mess up his own credit and assets. His family does not care for me and are likely jealous at the life I have with my husband and how they get less from him. Though my husband maintains the finances, we bring in roughly the same income, so this is not a case of my husband having full control over financial choices. Not the a-hole. He has shown you to be irresponsible. What happens if you have a college fund for your kids and his family feels entitled? Please do not have a kid with him. Unless he could somehow get out of this mess and go no contact with them, I would definitely divorce him. Even then, I don't see how we would rebuild trust. I would have to go through every single account monthly, and I don't know if it's worth it. The blatant lie and then doing it behind her back, how on earth do you get past that? If they divorce now, then this stays with him. He just lost their retirement/college fund, just gave it away, and will most likely keep on doing it. It's $1 million, with zero equity for him. OP, I'm so sorry you had trouble conceiving, but I'm glad you are not tied by a kid to this mess. Not the a-hole. Yeah, even if she loves him, divorce him and separate all finances completely, so she's off the hook for the debt when they screw her husband over.